Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Front Row, Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Brian Wolf. I'm a physical therapist with Physio Growth. So this podcast is brought to you by Physio Growth. I am flying solo today, so I do not have Owen with me. So for those of you who are always listening to this podcast and love me, here's your wishes come true. So I know that's not many of you, but that being said, I'm flying solo today. We'll see how this goes. And a little bit different format. We're trying to test out some different stuff. So it could flop. It could be amazing. But today, I wanted to recap a call that we had within Physio Growth with one of our business owners. And she asked a really good question. And I think that it's important for us to talk specifically about what do I do? Here was the question, and I'll bring it up very specifically for it. And I might butcher the topic, already off to a rough start. But what she asked was she said, I am training somebody, I have a new employee coming on. And when onboarding a new hire that is per diem, how do you pay them during a training period? And so a lot of this is a really good question because a lot of you know that I have a company that has multiple locations. We do have some per diems. We have mostly salary employees. So this always comes up, and I thought it was a really interesting topic. So I think that it's important to think about. So again, for those of you who are cash-based practices or small entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or whatever who listen to this podcast, or those who have bigger businesses, this is an important understanding of the difference between salary and when you have people who are per patient or per diem in any capacity, right? The reality of the cost benefit analysis from a standpoint of financials can be really lucrative in either direction. And I'll give you an example. Meaning, if I have somebody who is a salaried employee, it means essentially I am going to pay them more money up front to build up their business in our practice of physical therapy. So if I'm paying somebody a salary, essentially I'm paying them more money for me to basically ramp them up, right? So during that ramp up period, I'm taking it on the chin a little bit. That's just what that is. That's the reality of business when you're doing that salary. However, on the flip side, if I see somebody from a standpoint of a PRN or part-time type of person, yes, I am cutting the cost of what I'm actually paying the person. However, when it comes to something like this, they are not being compensated for the time for such activities like this, like training. So it's important to understand what's a big piece of it. So I tell people all the time, like, here is the cost benefit of paying more versus less. So if you're going to hire somebody on a salary, you're paying for their time. You're paying for time away from their family. You're paying time for away from the things they love to do, right? And so those are the times that when they come and work with you, you can really train them and get them onto your systems. And it's super important to understand that concept. Now, the one of the reasons why I like salaried employees is those people are all in on your mission usually. They are people who want to be involved in your company. They want to come to all the meetings. They want to understand what your goals are. They want to be part of that team. That's a great point when it comes to salaried employees, right? People always ask me, what about incentives? What about this? Yeah, incentives are great, but the problem with incentives all being monetary is you are going to be what you attract. So if you have a salary that's lower, but it has incentives, that person isn't going to want to worry about training. They're not going to want to worry about certain activities that are going to make them more money. Because ultimately, what's going to happen is they're going to be like, well, I'm now working for free or I'm working for reduced salary. So their brain, you have trained them to think only based off of I need to make money. And if I'm not doing X, Y, or Z thing, I'm not making money. Or if you're saying, hey, I know some practices, I'm going to only do a 65K salary, and then there's going to be incentives on top of that. All right, well, if you have a staff meeting or you've got it outside the clinic time, that means this PT is now incentivized to get rid of all of that and just get busy with patients. And so if you need help with outside marketing or other things, this is something that person might not be necessarily incentivized for, right? They're incentivized to help and treat patients. Now, on the flip side, PRN or time, right? Or even salary. They might be a salary employee that might not be motivated to do other things, right? As well. So that's the pro cons you got to think about. So they may not be motivated to treat more patients because they're like, well, why do I have to treat more patients? Or why do I have to do more marketing? Like I'm salaried. I get paid one way or the other. But at the same time, you have much more control over what they do with the time that you have agreed upon for them to work for you, right? when it comes to the PRN status, or when it comes to the per patient model or the per hour model, the reality is when they are not working for you, they're not making anything. So again, they're disincentivized to come to company meetings and do training and things along those lines. So if you're saying, "Hey, I want you to come in and train for me for this reason," you got to be realistic and understand that's not going to be free, right? You can't do it for free. And that's, when it's something where it's like, "Hey, it'll be part of the contract, it'll be part of this, part of that," depending on how you negotiated, you have to think about that training as exchange for money. Like, I would not expect someone to be like, "Hey, you're coming," and I'll give you a great example. I work with a local high school who they were one of those people who were like, "Hey, we're going to pay you X amount of money for this time that you're here." Cool, got it. And we actually took a bit of a pay cut because we understood that, hey, the idea behind this is that some of these kids might come and train with us outside of there. Some of them might come for physical therapy, whatever. It was a good synergistic relationship. One of the things that we noticed was they were then trying to monopolize some of our other time, being like, "Well, can you train this other time? Well, can you train here? Well, can you do this thing? Can you do this random meeting with us? Can we talk about these hours? Can we do?" And the reality of what started happening was we were like, "Wait a minute. If you're going to ask us for a lot of other time outside of this billable time, I need to bill you for that time." And the reality was that's what we did. And guess what? That school had a choice to make, either to pay for our time or stop utilizing our time. And guess what? They just stopped utilizing our time, which was fun because now I can go and do something else. So it allowed us to do what we need to do from a business perspective and actually focus on other things and continue to build. If I'm not going to ask somebody of something that I would want to do, I have to pay them for that amount of time of training. So I think what happens to a lot of cash-based practices or small insurance-based practices is there's this scarcity mentality versus looking at this as an investment. Me training an employee and me paying for them in that time and me training them in general is me spending money much like I would on a stock for an investment. Me putting money into the stock exchange, right? I'm not expecting to 10x my money tomorrow. That would be an unrealistic expectation. Just like it'd be an unrealistic expectation to hire an employee that came into your business and then just killed it right out of the gate. Never stopped doing the amazing stuff and was growing like crazy. You're going to have to train everybody. You're going to have them. You're going to need to know how to use the EMR. They're going to need to how to get around the clinic. They're going to need to know what your referral sources are. They're going to need to know what the scripts are to convert sales. Like, I would want every single one. If I'm a cash-based owner and I'm hiring my first PT, I want them to understand how to talk to patients on the phone, how to set up stuff with referral partners, how to learn marketing in some capacity with creating social marketing content, how to reach out to other new people, how to ask for referrals, how to get Google reviews, how to do all those things. So those are conversations I'm having with those people. If I don't want to pay for that time and that person doesn't want to give me their time, right? This is a scenario where, in essence, I'm kind of shooting myself in the foot long term because I don't want to pay for it short term. So that was the training we gave this person. We actually walked her through a much more customized approach on how she could do this and helped her see, like, if you do this the right way, you're actually going to save money in the long term because this person is going to make you more money down the road, because ultimately, as they're starting to build their own book of business, they are going to make you more money. That's the whole idea behind the business of physical therapy, right? So you need to make sure that you're taking care of your employees and doing it from that light and just having those conversations, right? And that's a big piece of this part. So those are some of the differences between having certain mentalities, looking at it in a way that helps and serves you, but also looking from a perspective of, all right, as I grow my business, as I grow my team, how can I put my time and dump my time into those people? And that's the advantage of having a salaried employees is, those are people that are going to be a little more loyal to the company mission just because you're always paying them money. That's what they've accepted as a contract. You're going to pay them in exchange for that money. The last thing and piece of advice that I would give people when it comes to additional training or anything along those lines, it's not so much taking people for the ride. That's a big one. Oh, I want to take people along the ride with me. I'm not opposed to that. I want to help people. However, those people, as your business starts to grow, you can't take every single human that you ever are around for the ride. It's just impossible, right? So what you want to do is you want to maximize the bang for your buck. You want to really dump as much of your time and energy and training into the key people that you have to grow your business. And the other people that come in, you have to explain to them, hey, You want to be a key person in this business, you got to grow with me. You got to show me what you have. You got to do that stuff, work with me. And what'll happen is over time, you will find the right people that you can optimize and put as much of your effort into to train them. And so I think when it comes to the training on the side of maximizing your bang for your buck, the aspect if you are going to pay for training and you are going to pay the person to train them, you need to actually understand to a point where you're optimizing your time and saying, we're going to work on sales today. Today, what we're going to do is I'm going to work on how you sell people on the phone, how you convert them. So when they call, this is what you're going to do. Let me make sure you understand this through and through. Here's the script. Here's how you talk to the person. Here's how you make sure you chat with them from a perspective of like how you have every single breakdown that you would do it just like I would do it. And so, and then I would say, okay, and then repeat back to me. Here's how we do it. Repeat it back to me. How would you do it? And then again, honing in your training side of it. So that way that you don't feel bad paying for it because you're like, that person's going to convert the next 50 of his sales. And that's going to make me tenfold the money back. That's the idea behind it. If I have a new system that I'm using, like a new CRM, like if I have GHL, like that, something like that, what I want to do is I want to train my staff on using that new software. That's incredibly important. If they don't know how to use the software, that's a problem. That's not going to work for me, right? Ultimately, they're just going to be screwing around and not doing what we're, needing them to do. And ultimately, they're not going to be charging people. They're not going to be, converting somebody from that perspective. That's a problem too. So whenever you see a hole in your organization that only stops with you, if you're the bottleneck and no one else knows how to do it, you need to stop and train those people, right? Guys, if you like this kind of information, you like this, we do these kind of things in Physio Growth all the time, physio-growth.com. We'd love to have you guys and talk to you about this. And please hit that follow button. Tell people and friends, friends that are physical therapists, chiropractors, people who own gyms. These are great conversations we have all the time. We'd love to talk with them. So that's my plug for our podcast. And kind of to sum up that last part of the training, this person basically thought about it a little bit differently, where she said, okay, for this week or two that I'm training this person, I'm going to pay them basically 3 times more money than I expected to pay them. But we explained to her, the more that you work on this employee, the more that you work on that relationship, the less scared you're going to be about that person leaving. It's also really important that if you have that mentality, like, well, what if they leave, Brian? Well, what if they leave? It's also really important to understand that you're focusing on the wrong thing. What you're focusing on here is you're focusing on how much am I going to pay this person to train as a brand new employee? And ultimately, if you have that mentality and you have that mindset, I just spent all this time getting this employee and getting them to be part of my organization. Well, if they're basically saying, hey, I'm upset or I'm nervous or I don't like that I'm not being paid, eventually it leaves a bad taste in their mouth. And maybe down the road in a year from now, you're in the same boat because that person's now unhappy and leaving. So you got to think about how I can take care of this person, how I can take care of these employees, how I can make them part of my team and bring them along for the ride, quote unquote. Right? That's the mentality. It's not necessarily about paying more and more money. It's more about how to help them build and grow with your mission, your company mission. So it's always important to always be hiring and always be looking for people, even when you're staffed, because that will make sure that you're properly staffed versus looking backwards and saying, oh my God, I need somebody now. I need somebody now. I need somebody now. You find a physical therapist that maybe doesn't fit your mission as perfectly. And so it's always great to have more talent in the hopper than maybe you necessarily need. And so that's the last parting wisdom I would say here is think about how you can take care of your current staff as best as possible so that you are really moving your mission in the best possible direction and your staff is all with you. But also make sure that you're also looking for new talent all the time. So in case those people decide to move on, you don't have to be worried about oh my God, the scarcity mentality. How am I going to pay this person? What's the next step? Because the more you grow, the more consistently you won't be worried about putting people on salaries. You'll be worried about doing, oh, I don't want to pay for this hour of time or this hour of time. You'll be able to actually compensate people for the work that they're doing for you and make them feel incredible about it because they're helping you with that mission. So that's kind of my parting wisdom there is not just maximizing so again, not just how to compensate people for training and worrying about cost and maximize the bang for your buck and having that scarcity mentality, but also always be looking and hiring for people so you don't just even slip into this possibility. Because when I think this mentality, quite frankly, is systemic with people who feel that they're understaffed. So that's my parting wisdom. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Please leave a comment below. And again, tell your friends and family and hit some follow buttons on that podcast. Thanks, guys. See ya.